Hello, hello, hello. I see the red line. It must mean we have sound. If you guys can give me a quick sound check, make sure that you guys can hear me. Well, I just mess with you. I mean, that's why, purposely start the channel, but I don't put those tickets on just to see how many of you guys are gonna log in and try to do exclamation point ticket. I only do it to mess with you guys. I gotta have some fun. Come on. No, I was jamming out there. I was like, I like that one part of the song. When I did some of the updates the other week, now I have it recording, I guess, system sound. So I actually, I get to like jam out beforehand. Um, Although you guys know, I mentioned it before. You guys know that I am a huge fan of that YouTube station, Suvi Anything. And he's great. I love the guy. Guga cracks me up. I love the music, and I actually found one of the music he uses in one of his videos. I was like, man, I feel like I need to like create a channel for smoking and sous videing and everything else. Now that I know where he's getting his music, and I was jamming out to that, and the baby likes it, so it's pretty funny. It's definitely like this, like Western twang kind of thing. I don't know what it's called. I had it up earlier. What's it called? It's called. I don't even know. It said it earlier. It says I don't know. It's called like I guess I don't know. It says instrumental name, but it was like I don't know. I forget what the grouping is. First things first, Tiger King. Oh my God! You watched it, Debbie? I can't bring myself. Everybody I know is watching it, but here's that song, guys. You see it right here. This is the song that I was listening to earlier today. I don't know if you guys can see it right here. This one here. I don't know. You guys may be able to hear it too. Hold on. I think you guys can hear that. There, you guys hear that? I think you can hear it. I'm telling you. So what he does is it's like my favorite station to watch. Like literally, he's cooking food, he sous vides it, and this is like the slow motion, like searing it afterwards. Like it gets you all pumped up. It just makes you want to get some meat and smoke it. Yeah, right. It's like a southern twang. I'm telling you, even if you don't barbecue, it makes you want to barbecue. Does it not? No, there's no words. But I'm telling you, he's like, it could be, Ernest can definitely, he could, whoops, not that one. He could get into it. I'm telling you. It sounds like the show. I'm telling you. Let me see. Hold on. I got to show you guys. I'm telling you, listen, it's addicting. I'm sure that you guys have, here it is. Where is he? Yeah, right here. Look. This guy. It's this guy. So like, he'll like do stuff with ribs and he sears them. Yeah. See that? Like he just seared stuff. Yeah. And like the music, he's got like great music. Seaweed Wago. Yeah. So like,
Need a professional website?
oh no, I don't need a professional website. Watch.
Let me show you how I did it.
It perfectly. Look at that. And watch this.
See, he's got the music. It gets you going. I think you guys can hear that. Right? But it's like searing meat. This is not the close-up one with that other song, but he's got the little flamethrower. But it's the best. I'm telling you, it's the best thing. You gotta love it. So great. Now I'm hungry. Good job. Hey, Ernest does this stuff to me all the time. Bob Marley's my barbecue soundtrack. Really? Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm totally into that song now. So I feel like I'm gonna have to start creating like, YouTube videos of my ode to Google, but crazy stuff. I don't like that flame stuff. Honestly, I'm actually I have the torch now. I actually think I prefer the searing in the pan, but I don't know. Some of them are a little bit harder to get to, some of the shapes. But I'm telling you, like the butter sear with aromatics in this, I think that's better. That in my eyes, that's better than the torch. But I do like the torch. Although my wife is really big into the skin, so I'm gonna like have to start frying up more skin. So yeah, the pan is the way to go. That's what I think. So I don't have a cast like I have a cast iron searing pan. It's kind of like I don't know. It puts like lines on stuff. It's not a true cast iron because cast iron. I have a cast iron pot and it's a kind of a pain to deal with. This one works fine and it's cool. So, but yeah. With that being said, now if my buddy James would just send some liquid sunshine up my direction, I would definitely be making a channel. Definitely. So, with that being said, I know many of you guys were on the webinar earlier today for Nadex. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate you getting back to me too about getting the invitation by email. The guy's like, no, everybody should have got it. I'm like, nope, none of them got it. So they are actually working on that one. That will help us grow. I think we had like 45 or 50 people on there at the peak time, and then I went a little bit long. I think we ended up with like 36 or 38. So some good numbers this morning. There obviously was not a code given out. I got when we were chatting beforehand, he just wanted to make sure that everything was cool with compliance. Obviously, we've done the parabolic retracement news analysis download, and they had no problems with that because it was free. It was just a download. This is really no different. And again, we think we'll be fine with it, but we just wanted to clarify it, just a touch base with it. And it'll actually be, you'll need two different passcodes. You'll need one passcode that would have been out, technically given out today, but we'll give it out next week. But he wants me to do every Tuesday at noon now. So I'll be going on every Tuesday at noon. Next week is just purely analysis at noon. And what I'm going to do an ATR risk one. Now, the big question is, what do I give away? I was thinking about giving away the 5-minute binary course, but I think I'm actually going to create a new course for it. Basically, how to handle risk in times of like extreme kind of what we're in right now. It's meant more as a risk guideline class than it is anything else. So think of it kind of as like how to use money management with Nadex and not, consider Nadex trading, not consider Nadex like a scratch off lottery ticket. Because again, the worst thing I'm going to do is give people free classes and then to think that, hey, listen, I'm going to make $1 million in my first month because I see all these guys on the internet. You guys know I'm not into that stuff. I know those guys are, I can't handle those type of things. And that's the last kind of image that I want to put out there that these people see. Is that, oh, listen, I'll just trade it. These guys have, Ferraris and Corvettes and yeah. No, I don't want that. I want real, instant, real life, risk, everything, what it's like. So definitely would be doing it. Money management, high times of volatility. Yep, absolutely. I got a Metro card. Exactly, Q, right? I know, 5-minute binaries. Well, the problem is, and here's the thing, James, I'm glad you point that out. So, I mean, here is the updated list. James, you kind of posted the link to it earlier. I was asking, it was actually funny. I asked him before I started, and I'm like, hey, listen, do you have a list of all the changes? He's like, not an easy one. And then literally 10 minutes later, this came up on the notices list. So this is kind of showing you guys what all this new status right now is for Nadex. Like some of these things are a bit crazy, and I've actually found some errors like, where was it? I forget where it is now. I found one that I was like, wait a second, that went in the opposite direction. I was like, that can't be right. It was obviously just a typo, but you can see more or less everything is doubled. Some of these are a little bit crazy though. I was like, what? I was like, come on, really? There's a couple of them in here. Like I don't like the dollar yen one. It's kind of a pain. But some of these, it's like, hey, listen, buddy, it was 4 before. Now it's 8. And then today that moved a total of 8 pips. So yeah, it didn't really do much. So I don't know. This is the new list. I posted it in the Discord channel. Like some of these things, it's like, yeah, you just double this from 20 to 40 pips per strike. Come on. So they're going to have less trading because of this, because the volume, the volatility is not there. All right. But again, this is the list of all these, even some of these small 2 hours. It's like, come on, going from 1.4 to 5.6 and going from 0.6 to 4. I mean, come on, look at these. Like these are crazy. 0.7 to 5.6. I mean, it's like, so yeah, some of them are nuts. 100 to 200. So yeah, but with that being said, check out these totals for the day. Normally I'd be like, oh my God, it was so boring today. But today I'm like, whoop, whoop, look at this. Only 6 pips, 8 pips, 35, 51, 37. Even 78 is good. Even 98 and 95. 95 is a little bit on the higher end for the dollar CAD, but minus under 124 hours, I'm all over it. I love it. Love it. And the reason why is because I want them to get back to normal. And yeah, I want them to be able to react faster to things. So numbers today were pretty interesting. As I mentioned on the Nadex broadcast this morning, I actually saw pound strength coming into the markets. And actually in the foreseeable future, I see, there being more pound strength. The reason why is just because, and I mentioned it today, they were basically at rock bottom before the whole rest of the market and the whole rest of the world collapsed. So they were already starting more or less from zero. So anything that they do in a minor basis was already designed to help their economy grow more. Obviously, this slows it down a little bit, but they're already poised for growth before anybody else because they were already at bottom, where we needed to go all the way to bottom first before we could come back up again and build the processes to have us grow out of that. They'd already built those processes, and then this has kicked in. So I do feel that pound strength is something we will see more of, and as you can see, it's up 75 pips over the last 24 hours. But current account actually came in for the currency. So, again, not as bad as we thought it was going to be. GDP number for the CAD came in exactly as expected. And again, that one is actually down today. PMI, better than expected, but still contracting. I actually thought that was going to be worse, much worse. The fact that it came in at 47 that close is actually quite surprising. I don't know if that one's going to hold. And then consumer confidence, 120. I don't know about that one either. I am kind of surprised at that one. Now, it was supposed to be picked a bit less, but not quite that good. We'll see. I mean, again, people are remaining positive. That's not a bad thing. Monetary policy notes came in a little while ago, and the Chinese data comes in about 30 minutes. Going into tomorrow, obviously tomorrow is a Wednesday. That is our oil day for the week. But tomorrow we have the ADP non-farm employment change and the ISM manufacturing PMI. So, as you can see, this is like the number of, basically, as you can see right here, right? It's the estimated change in the number of employed people during a previous month, excluding the farm industry and government. All right. So it's not the unemployment figures. It's the kind of number of people being hired and what totals were. So it's supposed to be picked at minus 150. As you can see, you don't really get minus numbers in here. It's typically always a positive. It's how many people we had. Like this is a crappy month, right? 67,000 people or 27,000 people. Those are crappy months. It's very rare you ever see a negative. So again, I can go back even farther. You guys can see no negatives. No negatives. Back to 2016. No negatives. All 2015, 2014, 2013, 2012, 2011, 2010. And then back here in the end of the crisis is, the 2008 mess. That's where you're actually seeing these big numbers down here. All right. So, again, we will see what we get up, as far as tomorrow goes. And then ISM manufacturing. So we'll see again. It's supposed to, we were really, really close to be contracting before. It's saying 44.7 with the number today not being bad. I'm curious to see if that comes in tomorrow at maybe a 98. But or if this is the one that's going to tank really bad. Like I said, I was pretty surprised, but Chicago PMI is not the same as the ISM manufacturing number. I guess we'll really see tomorrow what's going to happen. All right. As far as the overall and latest news, you can see there's not a whole lot sitting in here. Again, coronavirus stuff, billionaire Steve Cohen after an earthquake, there are tremors. I don't know. The analogies are a little bit early. Again, you see the reversal. As far as the biggest news of today, again, the Fed starts a new program to provide U.S. dollars for central banks. Okay, all right, sure. Cautioning the staff of his investment firm. We'll see what he has to say. Chet. 90-day deferral for some tariff payments. We'll see. I don't know about that one. Well, again, I don't think we were collecting a lot of tariff payments anyway, so it'd be interesting to kind of see how that one kind of what it pulls out. And then consumer, it says consumer confidence declined sharply, but not as bad as what they thought it was going to. So again, a market prepared for worse than it actually was. All right. So we'll see. Overall, not too bad of a day. Now, quiet day today. Again, quiet scanner. Look at the majors. Only one thing is inside of a setup. Look at the CAD basket. Everything is consolidating. Aussie, almost everything except New Zealand is consolidating. Right? The only movement we have is this pound strength coming back in because that current account was good. Even the Euro basket, consolidating. Euro pound was down. Obviously, the pound strength that we talked about. And you guys can see a little bit of a pullback here and a little bit up in the euro yen, and that's it, right? So for the most part, this is absolutely great news. You may say, but Brian, there's really not a whole lot of setups overnight, but that's totally fine. I'm okay with that. Why? Because if this is consolidating, that means we're having inside days. That means the ATRs are going back down, and that means we're getting back to those small spreads and small risk zones, and trading will become more normal than what it has been. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Couldn't be happier. I think it's absolutely great. All right. Now, again, this doesn't necessarily affect our 30-minute or 1-hour zones. This is more on a daily basis. But pretty much all the volatility data and the spreads widening and all that stuff, those are all based off of daily and 4-hour numbers. So the fact that those are in those consolidation phases, I think, are absolutely great. Hopefully, if we can go through the rest of this week at this lowered rate, hopefully by next week we'll start seeing some of these things be reversed and kind of push back, into normal ranges again. As far as spreads go. It took them 2 weeks to enact it. I'll tell you right now, if the market goes back down and we're having these little tiny ATRs in a day and Nadex has those things jacked in double, they're not going to have many people trading. And if they are, the people that are trading, they're taking a whole heck of a lot of risk because it's going to be all at the monies. And any type of whipsaw back and forth, people are going to lose in big chunks, and people are not going to be happy with that. So if I was an index, I'd be extremely aggressive on that. But again, remember, make sure you guys remember, you guys know exactly where that this is. Okay, and again, I'll actually I'll post it for people that are Nitix traders here. I'll post it inside of chat so you guys can get access to it. That is what the current, again, there is the contract specifications that are listed on the website. These are the updated ones because of the increased volatility right now. But as this volatility disappears, they should absolutely, without a doubt, be changing this one back, and we should be getting it back into, kind of like I said, back into normal ranges, back into actual trading again. And then it's a regular day in the office. There's nothing we do differently than we would have done any other day. Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's go over the charts. All right. Charts. I had to reset all my charts a little while ago. It's funny. As you guys know, with the indicator, you need to reset it. It needs to touch the different time frames to be able to pull data from them. I had it set on white charts all day today from the morning, and I didn't realize it until I was starting up the software for Chart School. I was like, wait a second. Oh God, I forgot to change everything over. So I've been using the wrong color charts most of the day. It's fine. It is what it is. The white ones look fancy, but if I sit there for too long, they do start to bug me. And mostly trading at night is when I notice that they're set on the white, and that's where my eyes are like, all right, they're getting tired from looking at this white light this whole time. But yeah. All right, so in the Aussie, as you guys can see on the daily, there's really not much movement. We are consolidated. We're in kind of a pushback, but we're definitely kind of in an engulfed area. Now you can see it did move up and back, a little bit. Like we're here right now, right? Where is my indicators? Not trend state. Oh, I know what happened. It's the 31st. I know what happened. Let's see. I'm gonna have to do this on the fly. All right, so anyway, you guys can see my indicators will probably all disappear because I haven't loaded the new one in. Yeah, they're all gone. All right, so I'm going to do it on the fly real quick. Let's see. I will take this. I just downloaded it the other day. The supply and demand and trend state. The copy. I'm sure you guys know how to do this by now, right? Open data folder. Go in your MQ4, go in your indicators, and paste that. And there we go. Oh crap, those are the wrong ones. Those are the MT5 ones. I was like, wait, why isn't that not working? Here, let me take these out. Let me take the MQ5s out. By the way, if you guys are testing MQ5, definitely let me know. Let's see. It's always fun. Come on, it's in the download section. There we go. There and there. Let's copy. Let's go over here and paste. Let's close this down. Give it a second to refresh here. Bear with me one sec. I got that song in my head now. Let's drag this back over here. Whoops. And I think it should go back in. There we go. All right. All right, so there we go. Obviously, my zone up top is missing now. Again, off those gaps, that was done off for 30 minutes. So, as you can see, sideways movement, not too much going on. Again, we still have this one little area right here that we're looking for. And again, you guys can see the candles here pushing to the downside, a little bit of a test. That zone's probably still valid, but we were unable to get anywhere close to it. As you can see, again, here's where price is right now. You see the 21 at the bottom. Scrolling back, you can see that the 21 was sitting right here. So really not a whole lot of movement. A little bit of a pop, a little bit of a push back down. Again, for the most part, we stayed in the exact same area on the 4-hour. On the hourly, gives us a little bit better review. And you can see we've kind of put a top and a bottom in now. We've kind of compressed it. And it more or less stayed in that same region. That one little pop, and then just kind of, and again, that was the news from last night. A little bit up, a little bit down. Same exact area. So again, sideways movement in there. So on the 1 hour, I don't mind this bottom section. I do like the top section a bit more. And again, we can refine that a little bit if you want. Right? We could refine this just a bit. I'd still probably leave it there. And again, it's a little bit bigger of an area, but remember, it's done off a 4-hour. That's probably the zone that we're looking for. So really, for me, I'm going to wait until we get up to, what, 72.82 or 72.83 to be looking for shorts in this position to the downside. Now, on the 30-minute, shorter time frames, you guys can see we've really just threaded the needle between these two areas. Obviously, on the near term. This would be high on the curve. This would be more the middle, right? But again, price hasn't been down here for a while. It ended up, turning here at this zone. So, we got to wait till we get to one of these two sides. With the news tomorrow, there may be some potential for this one in the morning. But again, it's, the employment and as well as ISM, either one of them, if they're sitting in a 30-minute, there may be some potential in there. Got to see what Nadex-wise looks like. Normally, I would say, hey, trade these on a 2-hour, but with the spread differential popping a bit more on those, I don't know if they are as good until if they go back to normal. But again, there are smaller time frames that we could trade. Even more for those. But I think for the most part, going below 30 right now with this would be, not advised. Okay. There's Chinese PMI coming up shortly. Yep, in 30 minutes, right? Or not 30 minutes now, but 15 minutes. Yeah, 9:45 Eastern. So yeah, in 15, 20 minutes. So there's the Aussie. And again, where it is, Ernest, it's sitting in the middle right now. So unless it decides to spike up in the next 30 minutes, which I don't think it's going to do because we're hitting what? We're 70 pips from the top of the zone and 86 pips to the bottom of the zone. Again, this is some of that craziness. This is kind of what we're used to now. And again, it would look more like this, but, because of the larger candles in here. All right, so that's where we're sitting. Aussie yen. All right, Aussie New Zealand. Okay, Aussie New Zealand did have a green day today. It was up again, nice little push higher. There's some small zones over here that it's running into, but nothing that stands out that says it has to be a short. Looking over here again, you can kind of see what we were talking about before. We had one push, and again, we saw a push up, push back down, and again, a lot of wicks on this, a lot of indecision. Coming from here to the left, you guys can see there is a small zone there. It's really not the best zone to me. I think it's going to have the same type of fuzzy kind of movement to the top side. I mean, at this point, we should probably just put it on a line. Actually, I guess I can't even do. This would probably give us a clear indication of, what we really need to. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Huh. That's interesting. I never looked at it. I never looked at this, but it still shows you the setups with the way that paints the candles. Interesting. This is probably a better way to look at it right now versus this because there's just so much indecision with the back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And even if you go to the line, you guys can see it's a lot of, not a lot of clear, right? Not a lot of clear. I mean, for me, the candles is the best way, but most of the bodies disappear. So not really loving this one on the 4-hour. Sitting on the hourly, you can see that we are approaching. We've kind of been front run a couple times at this point. This upper zone here on the 1 hour, we got really, really close. We did actually not get the entry on that one. And I think on the 30-minute, we missed it too. Yeah, we didn't hit it on either one of those two. But there is a little bit of a zone, and it's kind of what we're seeing on most of these pairs. They are getting bracketed in, and it's kind of sitting right in between the two. Obviously, Chinese numbers are a great time to play this. This one kind of has a weird reaction because, again, Australia and New Zealand will both benefit or falter based off of what happens with the Chinese because they import from both those nations. So as far as news goes, they're not the best one, but again, we're kind of sitting top and bottom on this one. All right, so looking at Aussie yen is another one that we could trade news off of. On the daily, you can see that this one kind of has turned and flipped and now put lower highs in and actually started to kind of look like it wants to roll over. It did bounce off that zone that we'd marked off before on the 4-hour. As you can see, there was a little zone sitting right here, right? I mean, I can draw all this. You guys can see those wicks, right? That was a zone to turn off of. Now, technically, before this break right here of this uptrend, we have higher lows here. We have higher highs here. So we are somewhat in a kind of sideways near-term channel going higher. But it's starting to look like it's going to collapse over. Now, I'm like, wait, there should be zones here. There you go. I was like, I know there's zones in here. This is kind of more what we're looking at. These are old from when I saved it before. Okay. So you guys can see we are kind of bouncing back and forth. I think the 1 hour is the best way to look at this one right now of all the different time frames because it does give us kind of a bracket to the top and the bottom. Now we are sitting in hourly demand right now, which is kind of interesting for news. And again, you guys can see here on the 30-minute, it's really getting consolidated in. So I think my opinion is the 1 hour would be the best way to look at this. And again, this is kind of the aggressive entries, top and bottom. And then these are a bit more the conservative entry. So with news coming up in about 14 minutes right now, if we see this, and again, I'll mark it off, right? Mark it there. We'll drop down to like a 15-minute. You guys can see it's actually two zones on the 15-minute. If we see this price kind of slamming down a bit farther, if we see this coming down into this range, right before the news release in the next 5-10 minutes, that could actually be a signal for us to be long. Right, basically meaning that Chinese news is going to be good, again, which would increase the potential power of the Aussie. right? Versus at least the yen. All right, so that's kind of where I am on a lower time frame. Spread on this one is 2. The risk level on this one is about, it's 9 or 10. And again, this is a proxy, so it's a little bit different. The reason why I just wouldn't take it right off the bat right now, and let me delete this so you can see it. But the reason why I wouldn't do that is because, again, you see these lower highs coming in. For you to be able to take a position off here, even on a lower time frame, right? You need to make sure you have clearance. Now, is there anything to stop it? There's a zone here, a zone here, a zone here, and a zone here. So it is consolidating down. It is set up for some type of a burst. But if I have to pick either direction, the fact that the bottoms seem like they keep coming down to the same level and the tops keep coming down, to me, it looks like there's more selling pressure in here. So I would be a little bit, in my eyes, it would be a little bit risky. It's not, not a very big zone. I mean, you're only talking about 10 pips, so it's not big. But unfortunately, the only catalyst is going to be that Chinese number, okay? And I don't know. If anything, I would say go long. But for a 2-pip spread on this one, I don't know. Unfortunately, I think Nadex is priced itself out of this one right now, so there's not a whole lot there. But that's one long I'd be looking for right there. Aussie CAD. So Aussie CAD. Oh, another thing I wanted to do is until this is back to normal, I'm going to leave the ATRs on here. So ATR. So you can see that we're obviously peaked at the top and starting to push down. Okay. Important thing to note about the Aussie CAD in this one. Again, the spread is 2 right now. It's based off of 14 bars. 14 bars is right here. Okay. So we're about to get rid of this candle, and again, I want to put it next to it so you can see it. That red candle, this big one right here in the middle, that's about to be eaten away. And then we have this one. So these are 2 quite large candles. This spread is about to drastically be reduced. And again, when this candle right here is gone, this one will be all the way back down to here. So Aussie CAD is not quite playable right now. That ATR is still, 231 pips. Some of the zones are quite large on it, but it's definitely getting back into the ranges where we'd like. Okay. Should really say this with ATR on there. What's I gonna do? Save template. There we go. Now it'll pop up on all of them. All right, so on an hourly, you guys can see where we're at. Again, on the 30-minute, you're going to see nothing but consolidation right now. Again, just sideways movement. It's been kind of dinging around this, although this zone is basically gone at this point. It should be missing. Yeah, there it goes. I was going to say it should be gone. But we are still kind of pushing around an area of buyers. It was marking off this zone. Obviously, we had a little bit of a low here we need to be cautious of. Something along really kind of in this zone. Again, we need to be careful. And that's what we're sitting on right now. So it's another one of the Aussie pairs is sitting in an area of demand, kind of set up for some type of a pop. Take it for what it is. This one is going to be a little bit riskier to play. Aussie Swiss. So Aussie Swiss is not having that huge pop. Again, there is a nice little zone sitting right here. I don't know if you guys see this one. Let's mark this off first. Okay. Guys will see there is a zone sitting right here. Okay. Pretty nice little zone too, but we got a lot of room to run before we get there. You're talking about 204 pips. ATR is down to 171. Okay. You guys can see it is taking a drastic push down. I think that... Yeah, 16, 15. Okay, we're starting to eat through these right now. There's going to be 2 small ones. And then basically Thursday, Friday, when this long green one here is gone, this thing will also start to collapse back down again. So it's set for 2 pips right now. Looking at it on the 4-hour, you guys can see that zone was violated, but not really the best of zones there. You can see we had marked off this level up top. I'd marked it off here, and you guys can see the indicators grab it on the lower time frame. As well as the gap up top. I think that's a pretty valid zone. I don't think that's too bad. It's a 4-hour zone. You're talking about, on the 4-hour, it's about 45 pips. On the hourly, let's see if we can shrink it a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit smaller, but you guys can see zones are starting to form on the top and bottom. It's starting to pinch it back in again because of the craziness in the movements. Here is the 30-minute, right? Here's the 30-minute, and this kind of gives a little bit better of an idea. Again, this zone is nice, but it's just really, really far away from where we are right now. Here is what we have more on a 30-minute level. And again, you still have a funky spike like this. This was the Chinese news the other night, so technically we could get another spike like this. And remember, that one moved just a couple of minutes before. But right now, we are from 2 equidistant, basically, from these 2 zones. This one's about 9 pips, and the top side is about 11 pips. So this one I would actually look to play after the fact. Again, the ATR is 21 on this one. From where we are right now, we're about 50 pips from the bottom. and about 68 pips from the top. If we spike into either one of these two zones, that would be kind of the trigger for me to say, hey, listen, go long, go short based off of a quick spike like this. And again, remember this one. Shot 120 pips down and then 120 pips spike back up in like in 5 minutes. That's probably what I'd be looking for from here as well, just because we are in between two zones. The trend is down. As you can see, the trend is coming in. It's saying uptrend confirmed in this section, but over here, it's not really giving us much. I would say there's absolutely no trend right now. So it's more sideways than anything else, right? But yeah, I think 30 minute is the way to look at this one. So Aussie Swiss, set in your 30 minutes, look for a spike top and down. We'll find out in a few minutes on that one. And then Aussie Singapore, Aussie Singapore is kind of stuck, right? It's pulled about half the way back. It was already in a downtrend. Made a very valiant attempt to go higher, right? It is run into this zone and this zone, kind of a one and two right here, right? It's gone just sideways since that time. You guys can see today, it really hasn't done too much. It stayed in the same zone today for what? 16 hours. It's been kind of in the same area, right? And top to bottom here, you're talking about 40 pips. So, I mean, it's, slightly tradable, but, compared to everything else, it's still kind of in consolidating. So I can stretch it out as best as I can. And that's kind of what we have going on here, right? I wouldn't necessarily take either of these two zones, right? There we go. I had to reset the data on that one. This one, it's been hit a few times. Price has gone a little bit lower. The zone is actually back here. I think the only zone that we'd be willing to really look at would probably be in that range. This one I would really not focus on. It's bounced off of it one time, but we put a lower high in, so I think it'll test to the downside, continue to push, and maybe take a position off of here. It's about a 14, 15 pip risk level there, so not too bad. And again, a lot of that coincides with when news is getting ready to kick in. All right. Trying to see if the data was that early. Nope, not yet. All right, so those are the Aussies. Let's dive down and look at the CAD real quick. Oh, my phone's blowing up. Why is my phone blowing up? I don't know if people are posting. Okay. all these crazy groups. All right, so CAD. All right, I'm gonna have to remove some of my drawings here. Let's put the trend state back on. All right. So you can see CAD is still kind of in that, the CAD yen is still in that kind of consolidating. You guys will see much smaller candles. Look at this drop on the daily. Already starting to come back down again. At its peak, when we were in this craziness, this back and forth, we were sitting there at 211. Now we're down to 160. So we've lost 60 pips, right, in the last 3 days as far as the ATR goes. The daily ATR right now is only 166. So this one is already starting to show that it's kind of weakening, and that's a good thing. The spread on this is only 1, so it's definitely something that's tradable for tomorrow. Here's what we got right now on the 4 hour. Okay, we are kind of in the middle. Again, we have the gap zone up here. Again, this is an area that we want to make sure that we have marked off, right? And we've already hit the area once. And then to the downside, this was kind of the low in this pair. We're sitting right in the middle. I'd like to be in one of those two zones. I don't know if we're going to make it tomorrow morning, but if we stay in the middle, that gives us the opportunity to enter on a spike to top and bottom. On the hourly, you can see all of a sudden, wow, there we go. We got something up top, right? It's a little bit lower, smaller risk in that one. We've dropped it down to 21. But we've kind of lost anything at the bottom, right? We don't really have anything to see down here on the bottom on the hourly. On the 30-minute, bam, there we go. We got some positions in here now. So on the 30-minute, again, we have a lower level here. Probably wouldn't be as interested in using that one. Again, we're kind of in the middle. What I would focus on this one is I would use this bottom one here, and I would use this top one up here as far as my two levels of risk. Now remember, this is kind of, there's two zones in here inside of that one big one. This is probably the better one to use. Remove this off the gap because it's the same area and use that one. Okay. So you would use that to the top side and that to the bottom side. All right. So you can kind of see those two levels. All right. That's kind of what we're looking for oil. If we can get spikes, use basically the oil news to spike us in either of those two zones. All right. Now we got, obviously a little bit of a distance on that one. I got about 190. So it may or may not hit tomorrow. Again, it depends if the oil number is a big miss or not. But that's kind of what I'm looking for this guy. All right. The 15-minute, there's so many little zones in here. Just too much junk. Although, you know what? That may be a small area to take off of. We got what? About 60 pips. So that could be a zone for tomorrow morning. Okay. Looking for something there. That and that off. We can remove this. And we can use those tomorrow morning. Something along those lines. Looking for something like this. If we can get a rise in this price overnight. Let's bring that over here. I like that. I like that. Let's erase those. There we go. Something along those lines for tomorrow morning. For pound CAD. I'm sorry, for CAD yen. Good old CAD Swiss. Look at that. Consolidation still. Again, look at the ATR. Dropping through the floor. Love it, love it, love it. On the 4 hour, you guys can see what we got going here. On the 4 hour, kind of the same thing. We are bracketed top and bottom. Very similar. Don't forget, there is the gap up here as well, which is obviously something that you need to mark off as well, because that will be an area of sellers when it comes. On the 1 hour, you guys can see here. Let's load these up real quick. All right, so 1 hour. You guys can see that, you know, it's definitely marked off with the zone. We'll see. Okay, but this zone has done pretty well. Front run. Didn't even get close. So it looks like this little zone up top, it's only about 18 pips. Not a bad little level. To the downside, let's see. Let's keep that one marked off up top. Let's drop down to the 30-minute. How much room we got? It's about 100 pips to the downside on any of those. This is the problem. We're 85 pips to the top zone and about 100 pips to the bottom zone. Okay, the ATR on it is 116, so that's like one full day worth of movement. And part of the reason why they're so far away is because, again, this is the craziness that we ran into, hence why the zones are so far apart. So we're almost in a case with this CAD Swiss that we need the kind of levels to be like reinitiated, right? We need to like get a reset on this one now that the spreads are the volatility and the ATRs are getting back into order. Hit the halfway back. Yeah, it'll hit it halfway back. There'll be a lot of halfway backs on that one. This guy. So I'd probably hold off on CAD Swiss. I think there's better opportunities at this point. Let's go over and do Swiss real quick. Chinese number's not out yet. All right, so let's bring this. All right, there's our daily. You guys can see this one pulled way back, and again, kind of sitting in this middle area here. Again, candles are not too big. On the 4 hour, whoops, I don't need to do that. 4 hour. So we're sitting in a bit of a zone right now. I wouldn't say it's the best zone. It's quite large. I mean, you're talking about a zone that was formed that's about 60 pips on the 4 hour. Here it is on an hourly. You can see it did just graze the top of it. It's still quite a large zone, though. You're still talking about 49.7, almost 50, basically about 50 pips with the spread. The spread's going to be 2 on this one. So it's moving off. I think I'd much rather have this grind up and hit this hourly zone up top. You guys can see here on the 30-minute, it's kind of jumped back and forth through. There, it actually it ate it up when I refreshed it to the top. So there's going to be a small zone right here. All right, last time price was here. Price ended up shooting right off of that zone. So probably a small zone there to take this to the downside. Looking at the 4 hour, though, I mean, looking at this one, you're going to say, okay, we are outside, but we are still technically in a downtrend, right? At this point, I mean, I don't know. The red candle is not really the best candle to use because it basically opened and closed at the same exact spot. It is red, so that would technically be our action candle. Right now, you know, is it engulfed? It's hard to say. I mean, we're outside of it, right? You know, you're like, yeah, but it didn't, you know, it's kind of, but it's kind of not really, right? If anything, you would say we were in a downtrend setup. Again, assuming you just ignore this candle, right? Obviously, this red candle is coming way lower, and you can see right here, it's it's saying uptrend setup, but if we were using these 2 candles down here, this would be giving us that downtrend setup. But downtrend setup into an area of buying, not really the best. Unfortunately, I like it here, but to the downside, we know that we're kind of sitting in the zone. Let's see, is there anything? That's what I was afraid of. See, look at that, touch there, and this is what we're dealing with. So yeah, unfortunately, there's a zone sitting here, sitting right here. Okay, So there's a couple zones right below this level. So as much as I like the way that this kind of flew off of it, it looks like we're gonna have a hard time breaking through. So Swiss may be better one. Again, let's see what the London Open looks like and see what kind of news comes out of the Swiss tomorrow. CAD number came in better than expected. Came in at 50.1. Okay, so that's a good thing. So let's jump back and see if we're getting any types of pops on the Aussies. Not the Singapore. It probably wouldn't be there. Let's see here. Down. Yeah, 5. Not a huge reaction on this one. Let's see what do we got for the yen. No, not a huge reaction. So it looks like the market expected that number to be that good. And again, because the one earlier in the week was good, I think this one was expected. I think the forecast was a bit low on this one. So not necessarily, not really surprised at this point. Again, if there's no reaction to that one right now, then again, the surprise happened early in the week, and this is going to be a non-factor. So, oh well, I was hoping we get more out of that one. But again, what I would do now is say, hey, listen, we're sitting in, demand here. This one this is the hourly. Let's see, what do we got? Whoops. Not quite at demand. So just consolidate. Man, this Aussie yen one is just ugly. Yeah, everything is more or less sitting in those areas. Yeah, same thing. You guys can see they're all similar. They're all sitting near areas of demand. So we'll see if they can get enough of a bid here to start moving. Right now they don't have much, so they're not reacting off the news number at all. So okay, so it's going to be a non-event. All right, so let's jump over in the euros. All right, so let's bring and refresh this so the new levels come back on. When I say that, I should have probably had all this stuff drawn on there. All right, there we go. So as you guys can see right now on the daily, okay, we had this big push up and we're pushing back into this middle range, right? So here's what we got on the 4 hour. Okay, so on the 4 hour, as you can see, the indicator is blocking off this one peak. It's okay on the 4 hour, but it starts to diminish when we go to lower time frames. As far as pops, this is an okay level. I know it draws it. Again, there's certain rules inside of there. I don't really like it that much. Excuse me. It did spend a bunch of time in this area. So although it gives us kind of that bracket top and bottom areas, I'm not really the biggest fan of it, really on either side. Drop it down to the hourly, okay? So you can see all of a sudden we lost that zone here, right? On the 4 hour, we had a zone way up here. On the 1 hour, we start to lose it. It's not in here anymore, okay? So it's not really showing. We have smaller levels, and again, we have one level here that was tested, right? We have another one right behind it. This was kind of the last peak, and then we have a wick over here. Okay, so as far as looking at this top to bottom, I actually like the wick over wick the best, but if you wanted to be aggressive and play this to the downside, then this is probably the zone that you want to hit, okay? That zone, again, gives us good risk to reward ratio, okay? 1 to 3 is sitting right about where price is right now, and again, that's not a bad level. The 1 to 5 is sitting before the opposing zone. Probably not horrible. And again, this is going to require a little bit of a euro pop to be able to get into this position before some strength comes back in. So really what we would need to see in the overnight is your Aussie weakness. And then when the London Open comes in, not that there's strong euro data tomorrow morning, but that would give us enough for the euro traders to kind of step in and start moving price around. But again, it is going to require that the Aussie gives us some movement tonight. Again, in a weakness. To pop that back up again. But there's a small trade on the hourly for the Euro Aussie. Looking at the CAD. So again, CAD, well, let me go back to the top level here. Euro CAD looks exactly like the CAD does in the Aussie, except on the opposite, right? Aussie CAD is down here in this same clump. This is on the top side. ATR is 162 right now on the daily. As you guys can see on the 4 hour, we do kind of have brackets top and bottom. And again, we've kind of marked those off. This one seems like it's working still with the levels. Anyway, I'll go down to 30-minute. That's kind of what we had set up from last night. Okay. Here's where we are now. And where we were last night is back right. Okay. So you can see we came a little bit farther down, we came back up and we touched and then continued to collapse all the way through. Your 1 to 5 target would have actually been sitting right here. Okay, this was a nice little runner. This is about 125 pips to the downside. The 1 to 3 was actually, in my eyes, kind of the easy one. That was about a 74 pip. And again, this one kicked in right about 10:30 this morning, which gave us that entry. And this was basically the U.S. traders coming online, right? Like the full force of the U.S. traders. It ended up crashing through this bottom side, which, I'm okay with. Again, that's going to happen. It wasn't like I was looking to get long from that level. You can see now that we've reset it, it's kind of republished itself. But again, your target was there. We really didn't get any type of a pullback. So looking at it now, right, I'm kind of looking at this and saying, okay, on the 1 hour, that zone was pretty good. Again, it was the upper side here. It's harder to see here. You can see it on lower time frames. It's down here on the 30-minute, I think is where yeah, it's sitting right there, those 2 wicks. We're not really finding many bottom side kind of targets. This is probably the best one right now. Where this took off from, this is actually a reaction to the original gap that we had, right? It's got quite a bit to go. We're talking about 250 pips to the downside, so it is over 1 daily ATR, but I'm really not looking to go long on anything until we get down to that position. I think it will continue to push back down again. This spike was kind of crazy fear and irrelevance, and you guys can see on the hourly, this is kind of what we've dealt with, right? Pop up, went down again, was unable to do it. And again, it seems like it's getting, here's its first high. Here was its next high, came back down. Here was a third high. And if we continue to push down, we can break some of the, the demand in here. Pushing down to this level would give us some type of a jumping off point, but we just need to move a little bit further. So for me, if we can get back up to this, what is it, the 157.13 to 157.38, doesn't look like necessarily a bad area to start selling out of. And again, looking for this thing to collapse back to the downside. If we pop up, or if we come back down, then start looking for lower time frame trades on the bottom. Definitely use your confirmation entries because this zone is a bit big. This zone is about 75 pips. Like the area, don't like the risk. So what I would do is I would take this, drop it down to some of the lower time frames and see if we can shrink it, right? 30-minute, we definitely can't. 15-minute, yeah, the 15-minute zone is marked off right there. It's this one down here, not this one. All right, so this right down there, that would be our zone. Okay, that one, let's see. Yeah, you're talking about 25 pips risk on that one. So much more in the wheelhouse of where we're looking to go. But we got quite a bit of room to run on that one. Right now, it's closer to the top side target for entry. Looking at Euro Swiss. So this one only has an ATR of 57. This one did not go crazy. This one did not move. Right there's our trend state. And you guys can see, yeah, it did get a little bit crazy. And when we say a little bit crazy, it got up to 67 pips. Right, it was down here at 44. So we got really crazy. Right, gained 20 pips on that one, but we didn't go absolutely insane. So nothing sitting here on those. You guys can see with the weekly overlays, really nothing even below it right now. So, probably pretty safe. These are old things. There we go. So on the lower time frame, you guys can see here, even with the overlay still clicked in right now, we do have some zones lower, and it's showing us right now that we do have, it does show a daily. It didn't show that daily before. I wonder why it's not showing that. I don't know. Anyway, it's interesting. I'll have to check with Matt about that one. Let's take that off. All right, so you can see we're kind of boxed in. This first level here, do not use this one. I would say put a, whoops. This one good. This one not so good. Okay, and that should be not a, like that. Okay, use the bottom one. So for me, top or bottom are the two areas we need to move to. Looking at this one on the hourly. Nice pop on the hourly, but if you look to the left, you can kind of see what it was running into. I think I'd still probably hold for that lower level. Top, again, this is quite a large level. Look how big this thing is. Even on the 1 hour, you're talking about, I guess it's not bad. I guess it's about 18 pips. So it's not horrible. Let's see, 30-minute. Oh, God, it's big. I like the top one better, but the top one's only 5 pip risk. So again, your risk is going to be small on this one either way. I do expect it to turn and retrace back to the downside. This is a single pop inside of a news burst. Obviously a parabolic candle, and it's taking its time to retrace back down again. So this is definitely a pair I would be willing to be short in. But before I wanted to get long, I'd want it to be down towards one of these bottom two zones. And again, this zone will probably have a bit of a kickoff. Again, that's quite a large candle. This one may have one as well. If you want to be more conservative, take this bottom zone. That's the one. It's been tested twice, but Again, we know that it's been held, and again, it's been able to front run and kind of cause the buyers to step into this market. So that's probably the best one down here, located at 105.45 to 105.34. And again, if we push up higher, I'd be willing to take something, in this upper zone. This region here, just by the way it's painted, it's only 17, but it's a bit big for my liking. I'd want to get a little bit higher on that one. I was hoping that we could see some. It's about 6 pips. That may be worth something. I mean, let me see here. Let's see. Yeah, that puts your 1 to 3 to the top side. That could be an okay trade. Like I said, it's pushed up into this zone here. We have descending wicks here, lower high. And again, this is the one that actually got to form it because it broke above this. But then it slammed down out of this thing. Two pretty nice kind of, two nice candles down on the 15 minutes. That could be okay. It's basically a smaller version of this. Yeah, I could be into that zone. That could be one to trade. Yeah, maybe set an alert on that one. Set an alert down here at 106.10. That gives you a little bit of maybe a little bit more than that. Maybe set yourself an alert at 106. Let's see, 106.13. Yeah, 106.07. Set yourself some type of an alert there and see how it's starting to approach that zone. See if we have any kind of basing sideways, because that could be a potential short. And again, remember, this is not one of the crazy pairs. The ATR is still 100% normal. Spread is only 2. So again, definitely a tradable pair, Euro Swiss. Euro pound. So Euro pound is down. Let's see. The updated total is minus 35 in 24 hours. Let's populate this in. Go to trend state. Now we got to load everything up. Boom, boom. All right. So as you guys can see, pulled all the way back again. The euro just went insane on this one. But since that time, it's been losing a lot of ground. Coming from, man, where were we at? 94, 98. So almost 95 all the way back down to 88. So, I mean, this thing has just been just a free fall. Looking at, you guys can see there's not really great levels above either. On the 4 hour, you can see that it's marking the top zone off. And again, we definitely have to keep that. But there's a few levels in here that, although the indicator didn't mark them off, they definitely have the potential, by the way that they kind of burst out of there, for entries to the downside. The hourly, you can see, again, this one is kind of bouncing back and forth between these two zones. Not bad zones. I mean, this is a, again, nice pop, 5 candles of red. It's probably the most consistent we've had in here. It was tested once, tested twice, and again, it was a valid. It did go 1 to 3 already at this point on the hourly. The zone on the bottom is kind of okay. I looked at this one actually earlier to see if I would be willing to take a short off of it, and I was kind of like, I don't know. I was more torn because I do believe this is more in a downtrend, so I didn't want to necessarily pick a reversal and pick it off of that zone. It was tested, right? Price did come up. It did slam back in and then take off again. So there's definitely buyers there. But in looking at it, this is my rationale. I was like, all right, it's 25 pips, right? Do we have the range on it? Yeah, we did. We ended up hitting it. So, I mean, I probably should have taken it. But looking at it, I was like, look, we're definitely driving lower. We're driving lower. Maybe it'll hit and do a little bit of a bounce. But this zone, I mean, it's been tested once, and then it had a nice run. That was a big move. You're talking about from one opposing side to the other, you're talking about 130 pips. So that was a lot of movement inside of a more or less shortened period of time, about 8 hours. That was more interested in getting into that than kind of finding a bottom. So I didn't get this one. It looks like I should have, but it just hit the 1 to 3 target on that one. So what I would do is I would still kind of hold that top side. If we get back up to, that area, be looking to take this one short for a 1 to 3. The 1 to 5 is a bit risky, especially because now we know that there are buyers sitting definitely in this zone. I mean, it barely touched the top and it turned and popped out. So be cautious with that one, right? Be cautious. I put a long on the Aussie done, then took it off with no movement. Yeah, there was no, I don't think there's any movement right now, is there? But anyway, that's the euro, that's euro pound, euro yen. All right, so as you can see, euro yen again is bouncing back and forth between these two dailies. We have some zones in 4 hours. Okay, you guys can see we are sitting on side of a 4-hour level today. We did come down and touch it in the last 8 hours, and it did, did bounce off of it. You can't see the level, unfortunately, hourly. And for me, I was kind of like, oh, look, there's a level there. Yes, yes, yes. And then I was like, let's see how big it is. And I was like, oh, it's 45 pips. Let's see what we can find. And when it went lower, I was like, oh, okay, there we go. I will say I actually do like this level on the hourly. Now, it was kind of a retest off of this zone. And again, you can see it somewhat on the 30-minute, but I think the hourly gives us the best true kind of description, right? Price came down. It immediately hit something, probably the zone here, but then we had a nice pop. Got front run here, went just slightly further, hit, and then boom, it launched all this. Now, I would have preferred if the first candle was this big, not the kind of 2 or 3 little ones and then the explosion higher. But again, we've confirmed that we do have some buyers in this zone. So this is a zone that I definitely have on my radar. Now, 117.78 to 117.40 is something that I'd be looking for. It is counter trend. Obviously, on the hourly, we are pushing lower. We do have lower highs. We do have lower lows. But it will run into something that could definitely be worth something on a smaller time frame trade, right? Or a shorter duration trade. As you can see, just slightly below, it does have the potential. Looking at the 30, it could get front run. But like I said, I would hold my guns. I would, remain patient and, again, take this when we get a little bit lower versus what we see over here. And again, remember, this is counter trends. There's a little bit more risk involved with it. But with that being said, we also have the cap over here. Okay, and you guys can see most of the biggest candles are over here in the last, 2 weeks. Going back 14 candles, we're looking at right here. So we're right in the thick of it. This gigantic green candle is about to come out. Okay, we just ate up this one. This gigantic one here is about to come out. This gigantic red here. And then this green right here is about to be taken out of this thing. So again, this will be continuing to push back to the downside. Now, this one, again, is fluctuating between 1 and 2 pip spread. So again, the spread is very, very small. We just need this to go back down again, have the ATR come back down. It's currently at 190, and normally it's at about 80. So we get this thing back into the 120s. That's kind of what it can do on a regular basis with a good day. We need to get the strike prices need to get shrink and reduce back down again, and I think that'll happen in fast succession. Looking at Euro New Zealand. Now, Euro New Zealand is starting to run out of steam real quick. You can see that when I say real quick, you guys can see the ATR is kind of like, oh God, what are we doing? What are we doing? And there was a little bit of a pop. It came out of a weekly zone. That's kind of probably why it happened. But you guys can see at its peak, it was up at 560. So the fact that we're at 460, 470, we've lost basically in what, 3 days? We've lost 100 pips worth of the ATR. And again, we're about to suck up that big candle. Not that big one right here. Okay. So 3 more days or 4 more days, these 2 big candles come out. First, this one here is about 500, 600 pips. That'll drastically drop it. And then when you take this bad boy out here that you guys can see is 1700 pips, top to bottom, this thing will go right back down again. So that, again, this one is also close to being tradable again. Again, volumes are not quite there yet. But again, it is coming back within range to where we can actually start looking at that and trading it again. Euro dollar. So as you can see on the euro dollar right here, I'm not gonna take this one off, although it's probably gonna kill it on me. So there's your daily. There would be your 4-hour. You guys can see the kind of sideways movement we've had in this one. Here's your hourly. Okay, so your hourly. But again, you guys can see we were butting up against this zone. We actually did not get an entry. I'll zoom in so you guys can see it. Not get an entry. It was close. It just didn't get an entry. This was one of those ones that I had sitting there. I was like, all right, if we get you a little higher, we're getting short. A little bit higher, getting short. A little bit higher, getting short, and it didn't get higher. Missed every single one of the entries. It was close. It's moving in the direction. It had some room to run on this one. Again, I like the 1 to 3. I like the 1 to 5 on this one. We just couldn't get entered, right? We just couldn't get entered. So here's where we are now. Chart school last night, we were sitting right about here. All right, so we talked about, again, that level would have been marked off. We just didn't get the entry. So we got front run. Oh, well. Unfortunately, it would have been a nice little trade. I don't know if anybody got short that position. You're up about 37 on that one right now. Not horrible, right? Not horrible. Another thing I like about this one, too, is you're definitely seeing this one come over. Getting some of these bigger candles will actually take this one down as well. And this is definitely one that I missed not being able to trade with NADEX right now. This has had some pretty nice little levels. I probably would have gotten an entry on the hourly on this one, but had this one been with NADEX, but did not get the entry. One level that I'm looking at the zone tool did not grab is I'm looking at this zone right here. Okay. That zone was a nice little, not only pullback, but then explosion through the top. So this level down here sitting at 109.09 to 108.93. Not a bad little area, right? I do like how it pulled back, kind of a sideways channel, right? and then the explosion out shows me that there's some buyers in there. So it will probably have a little bit of an area. It's probably not a candidate for a Harry Potter, but if we do get a break of it, it is going to be kind of a little secret level to be able to take and run to the downside down to this level. So looking at probably overtaking something along in there, right? Looking to overcome and capture this area from here to here is what I'm looking for that one. So right now, short, looking for a bounce sideways here, a break, and then a short, and then again, taking that back down to this 107, 108, basically the 108 range, the low 108s is where my targets are for the euro dollar. Okay. Euro Singapore. You guys can see what this one has done. Pushed back down again. I didn't actually make the entry, unfortunately. It came much farther down today. Here, you guys can see Euro Singapore got kind of eaten up. This one, yesterday, this was up to a 7-pip or 6 or 7-pip spread. It's down to 3 or 4 today. So the volatility is already starting to get sucked out of this one as it gets a bit smaller. Again, same thing. This will be more tradable on a technical basis. Again, you guys can see all the levels that data was trying to grab for. Yeah, you can see you can really see the consolidation here on the lower time frames. Oops, what did I do here? Didn't need that one. Don't need the overlays. There we go. Okay. I think the risk is getting small on this one. Yeah, about 15 pips, top or bottom. Okay. I do like the top one better. If we can get a little bit of a rally up, I do like that zone a little bit better, especially in any type of a pop. But the bottom one is not bad. It's been tested. Obviously, there's another one right below it. So there is kind of a backstop. You can have the aggressive entry or the conservative entry on this one. But I do like the top. So I do think that is a viable short inside of the euro. Singapore. Whoops. Right there. Okay. Oops. Oh. Actually, you know what? I can see a little bit of a bounce, but that's about it. This one's moved a bit. You got about, what? News put it down here. Yeah, there was your news spike down into this level, and you're up about 13 on that one. This one is moving a little bit. This one's going out. This one's flat. Yeah, so Aussie dollar, again, has actually come down. The other two have popped from those zones. So, not horrible. This one needs to go a bit lower before we can get there, but that was the best one over there. Okay, let's go over the pound. But definitely not the big spike we had last week. So, it's going to happen. All right, so euro pound. All right, so euro pound right now, guys. Euro pound. Let's clear these. I don't even know what time. All right, so on the daily right now, we have a total of 55 pips to the downside. The ATR is 33. So, yes, obviously, look at these little candles. Look at these little candles right here. This is showing us that it's getting back to what it will normally do in a day and start eating up some of these very, very large ones. 14 days back, it's important to understand, too, what's about to get taken out of here. As you guys can see, it's taking right from this level. And this was a 340 pip. So it's taking these 340s out and replacing it with little tiny ones that are top to bottom 140. So this also will start drastically dropping down. Okay. Let's pull up the trend state. As you guys can see, we are back down to... It's 330 at this point, right? It was 380. We're back down to 330, right? So it is starting to shrink. Each day now it's going to start chomping down lower unless we have a suddenly large 300 pip day in here. But it looks like and again, we had this big one coming out in 4 days. So Friday, Monday time frame, this large wick here, this large guy, that was 560, but will be taken out. And again, it looks like the target for this right now, it looks like next week is when this will come back into kind of normal ranges of, what we normally see. Give us some nice little setups in the lower time frame. So as you guys can see on the 4-hour, we are kind of smack in the middle between the two areas. There is a gap area here right in front, right? It is sitting right there that we have been tested. But I think that is a little bit better of an entry than this zone. This zone, if you look to the left, you can see there was a zone there. So not necessarily my favorite. Okay. On the lower time frame down to the 1 hour, you can see this is the gap from Sunday. We did hit the gap today, right? That hit at approximately 9, 10 o'clock this morning and then pushed back to the downside. It was a good trade setup, right? You guys can see there, it actually just went through. Actually, I guess it did it a little bit earlier, but it's actually closing down that range right now in the 1 to 5 range. Good setup, right? The risk was not horrible on this one. Again, for the pound yen, with as crazy as one can get, you're only talking about a 23, 24 pip risk on this one. It was able to move well over 100 now to the downside. You're looking at 130 to the downside. And that's just sideways channeling. Look, it really hasn't done much. Here's where we opened on Sunday, and we're only slightly lower than that right now. So it spent a lot of time there during the day. But again, from the time it triggered, basically at noon, 1 o'clock is when you guys push through. And then the 1 to 5 hit at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon today, Eastern. So nice little trade setup. Don't know if I necessarily take a long in that one. The reason why is looking to the left, you can see that there are, again, we've run into an area here. There's some selling up in this area. The way that it was looking, it was basing, it wasn't going much higher. The thought was, hey, listen, this is going to probably continue to collapse. And really that's kind of what it did. It kind of turned and came back to the downside. So I like this as a top. Again, I'm all over the gap situation. Was there more out of it? Not really. Not too much, right? Not too much. So, and then going down to a 30-minute, you guys can see just a little bit more where that zone kind of came in at, right? This is one of the ones you see we got front run, went all the way down, but then it came up and grabbed it and then continued to push down. So this one is given a few. This gap from Sunday night has actually been a pretty good level. Even if you guys are not trading the Sunday night gap strategies, make sure you mark those zones off. Again, this one would have triggered at this point 2 separate times now, and both times for over 100 pips, and it's only Tuesday. So again, there's been 200 pips worth of shorts in this one, literally in a sideways market right now. Sideways consolidating market for the pound yen. I would not use this level here. This level down here is probably a better one on the 30-minute if you're looking for any type of a bounce or a little pop. Not a horrible level, but again, it's a bit close right now, and it's forming a lot of sellers on top here, kind of driving it down. So again, be cautious with that one. I think this bottom level starting down here at the 132.45 is probably a better area for any type of a short-term bounce. And again, remember, tomorrow morning is going to be a better time to look at that one. See what levels are created in the London European session, right? And then use those to trade off of versus using things that are created in the US session when it was kind of more of a reactionary pair. So pound CAD. Bam. So you can see pound CAD just kind of took a bounce as well. This one has a 393 pip, and it's a 4 pip spread right now. So it's still kind of out of trading range for us. Like I said, the zone up here marked on the daily, you're talking about 300 pips, which is a no-no, right? On the 4 hour, kind of the same scenario. You can't really see any zones up top. A lot of little levels where it pulled back and kind of, hit in. We are still rather high. And again, we don't like these big, long wick dominated candles. You guys can see on the hourly, though, the hourly did come up and actually grab something pretty nice. Spiked literally right into it and came right back down and continued to collapse. Came all the way back down to the opposing zone. So this is just another example, although this one is a little bit more expensive. Right now, the spread says it's 5. The opportunities are existing, but on the lower time frames, right? We saw before on the daily, it was a huge zone. On this lower time frame, it's still big. You're still talking about 50 pips, but 50 for a pair like this is a lot more palatable than 500, right? And again, you can see not really a great zone, and we didn't hedge much. So I'm telling you, hourly and 30-minute have been the way to go. As you guys can see, this one, had you had this position on, you can see the 1 to 3, 1 to 5 were both clear, and ended up going below down here as well. So nice little trade setup. Risk seems like it's a lot more, but again, you got your 120 down here, and your 205 to the downside. So nice little capture with a smaller position than normal in the pound CAD. Like I said, pound CAD will be tradable, I believe, next week as well, based off of what I'm seeing. Pound dollar. Okay, so pound dollar on the daily. Let's go ahead there. As you guys can see, obviously still very, very high on the ATR. It's back down to 326. The average on this one was about 110, so we got a ways to go. But look at the 3 last days. Look at the candles in there. Look how small they are. Okay, going back 14 days, you can see that the 14 is sitting right around here. So basically, we have Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday is this big candle. This Friday candle is 685. When that gets taken out, this will also take a big chunk. Now, there's a couple other big ones in here. I mean, this is a 400 pip candle, but again, you could technically have 400 pip candles even in normal times. That doesn't happen. It's not that it's that rare. And then these other ones are still sitting here at the 300 range, right? 280. But then obviously, you can see this first one here. You're talking about 130, talking about 200, and so far today we're about 90. So this pair is about 46 from where it was last night, showing again consolidation. And we'll see. I think this one, middle of next week, I think is when a lot of these bigger candles here will be eaten up, and this one will also be back in an ATR. Now I'm assuming this one will probably be the 150 to 170 range is where I think this one will be next week. It won't be fully back to where it was, but again, at one point the pound dollar and the pound yen used to be movers of 150 and 100 and they were movers in that range anyway, so that's not necessarily uncommon for what it should be, right? But at this point we're kind of in the middle between the top and bottom of the curve on the daily. 4 hour, kind of the same story, right? You guys are seeing consolidation. Look what we have. It literally spent the last 24 hours inside of the same area, kind of bouncing back and forth. The only zone above is this, and I don't necessarily love it that much. On the hourly, again, you can see the consolidation levels bouncing back and forth. This one also triggered this morning at around 11 o'clock this morning, hit and turned to the downside. This zone also looks tiny. It's about 22 pips worth of risk. It was a great risk to reward. You only need to go about halfway through back to the origin of the move, and that's exactly what it did in 2 candles. So in 2 hours, you were completely out of the trade. As you guys can see, the green bar right here. You guys can see the green right here. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you were out with your full 1 to 5. Again, happened pretty quickly. Dropping down to a 30-minute, you can see really what it looked like. You didn't really spend much time. If you missed that one, what's interesting is the 30-minute zone that formed because of that level actually was the increased risk. Okay, this was one of the successful gap ones from this weekend, and you can see it's more or less the same area. Again, continuing this across. Actually, we would have done it there, right? You can see it came back up and touched that. So again, gave you one entry and then gave you a second entry, just like the pound yen did on this one. Give you some good movement to the downside. But even if you'd use this smaller one here, I'll delete this real quick. You guys can see that not only did it hit, it continued to push down. And I believe, yeah, it's already past the 1 to 3. Okay, risk is a little bit more on this one. Risk was about 25. But again, you're up here over 75 pips off of a short there. So whether you caught it here or caught it after the fact, I like the original hit first better than I like this one. But either one of them is technically fine. Okay. Right now, too, I think it will continue pushing down. I think when we get down to the London Open, I think we'll be back down in this level. And I actually don't mind that level for a bounce. Let me see. Do we have weak news tomorrow morning? We got a bunch of like Spanish, Italian manufacturing PMI, German PMI numbers tomorrow morning. The pound, we have final manufacturing PMI, but being final, they already kind of have seen the like kind of the pre. With the overnight being kind of down, if we can get to this level down here at 123.14, if we can get there before the London Open, that could be a potential long for us. Looking at something like that. For those of you that up during the European Open, that could, or the London Open, that could be a nice little short in the morning time. Again, if it continues to push down all night, the European traders are going to want to come in and counterbalance what's been happening in the overnight Asian session. And that could give us the push that we need for it. Okay, so that would be on the lower time frame as well. Pound Singapore, again, this one, daily ATR is 400 pips, way out of our range of kind of risk level. We're kind of sitting in the middle either way, so not going to spend a lot of time on the analysis. You can see there was a small tag there, but for the most part, it is considered sideways. Pound Swiss. There. So pound Swiss just came out of a daily wick over wick and did push back down. It went back. It didn't move, I wouldn't say super far. As you guys can see, it's really hard to see where it is on the 4 hour. You really lose it. You guys can see it here, and I'll mark it off so we can check it out on the lower time frame. Right? There's where it is. Not really the best of zones, and it did pull back a little bit. It's basically a 1-to-1 right now, but because it's not necessarily clear, it's not a very clean one. It's not necessarily the highest quality. I think if we wait till this top level up here at 121.34 to 122.08, I think those are a little bit better, better areas. Okay. Now again, this is not, this is 80 pips on the 4 hour. That's quite a bit, quite a big of a number. It's 270 on the daily still. It needs to come down a bit more. But as you can see, we don't really have a whole lot until we get up in the upper range. So it's got, it's got about 250 pips before we have quality levels on the lower time frames. Even the 30-minute, you can see here, if I bring the 30-minute back again, there's really not a whole lot. And for those of you that are a bit more aggressive, there was a trade set up right here earlier today from that zone. And then you had your retest right there. Your 1 to 3 was okay. Your 1 to 5, bit far. There's 2 zones in the way, so it would not have been a target that I looked for. But going, obviously doing your failure to go higher, right? Boxing that off, easy zone to draw. Your entry in this one was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The high came in at about 11:30. So actually, I guess it came in at about 2:30, right? And your first potential touch on that one would have been about 4:30 in the afternoon. If not, it would have just taken you out right now. So just another setup. Again, you had had to watch this one. This one is not something that the indicator would have grabbed. Not, I'd probably say it's probably a B level zone, a B quality zone. Taking that on more of a near term type high, right? Near term high, and then kind of hitting a level here, right? I mean, if you're going to draw a level, there is a level sitting right there, so it kind of coincides with that level. And again, that would have been the first level, as you guys can see. If we drop this down to the, a little bit here, you can see technically there would have been the level on the 4 hour. So same risk, it's just whether you got it off of the entry or taking the confirmation. So here was one zone, there was the other. There was the initial tap, there was the confirmation tap. Either one, same result. You were fine either way. You made your 1 to 3 risk to reward ratio. Okay. And again, but this was taking the lower failure to go higher was a little bit higher percentage trade because at least it gave you confirmation on the entry versus the other one did not. That makes sense. All right. CAD Swiss, and then CAD New Zealand. I'm sorry, not CAD. Pound New Zealand, 493. Still not inside of a tradable zone, but looking back, interestingly enough, 14 is right here. So we've already eaten one big day up. We need to get the second big day up, and a couple of these are pretty large. I mean, this is 1,000 pips right here. So again, it's coming back down. At its peak, it was at what? 558. And again, we're down at 490. So starting to come down. It's got a bit of a ways to go still before we really can do much with this one. So not going to spend too much time on it. New Zealand's kind of the same idea. Here you go on the daily. Again, we are still kind of in that kind of uptrend. It was a downtrend setup looking for levels. But at this point, we have our impulse and our corrective move on the lower time frames. We do kind of see a flip on this one. You guys can see the 4 hour. We were bouncing around this area a lot. It's quite a large area for for the New Zealand. You're talking about 45 pips, and it's been holding it again. At the same time, there's also a zone sitting right here. So it's been kind of wedged in between those two. We are riding this bottom channel right now. On the hourly, you can see it again. The indicator did not grab it, but again, price popped down. It popped, based, and popped again. So it's a valid zone. I mean, there's a valid zone sitting there. Again, there may be some type of an opportunity short to the downside. But again, a lot of this is going to depend on what time this zone actually hits and breaks. You guys can see it again there. I didn't mark it off, but I mean, I guess really, if we wanted to take this back over here, you guys can see that that's where the original zone came from. Again, just refining it. So again, this is entry number 2. So decent pop, we'll see. If anything, I would be looking for kind of a Harry Potter to the downside if you're looking for something in this pair. Risk in that is about 18 pips. Look for it to break. If it bounces off of that, no trade. If it looks to go below, look for some type of space below. Again, you guys can use the triangle trick. If you can draw a triangle in there and it goes around the triangle, right? If price comes down and goes around the triangle, which gives us a little bit of space. Oops, I wanted to move the whole thing. All right. Something along those lines. See if it can come down and go around that to the downside. All right. Boom. There we go. All right. So this one still has old line. All right. So there's your 4 hour. You guys can see kind of where we're sitting. The 1 hour in this one, to me, it still looks like it wants to push to the downside. It's actually put a little bit of a base in. There are a few levels over in here. Again, there's a zone that kind of kicked it here and then retouched. So a little bit of a zone right here, right? There's one There's also a zone sitting in this area here as well. Again, you guys have those, and you have kind of an area sitting in, pretty much sitting right in here as well. So you got a couple zones we need to go through. It's not super clean, but I think what will happen is it will kind of chunk until it gets back down to here. And then I do like this level on the hourly. I would be looking to take a long off that zone. I like how it not only based, but then it retested, it rode the top, and then exploded. So I do believe there are some buyers sitting in that area down at 6209 to 6177. So mark that one off. We got a bit of ways though. We got about 180 pips before we can get down there. The daily on this one is 205. So we're about a day and a half from us being able to get back down to that level. Again, that was only 30-minute. Yeah, it's an hourly zone. Okay. So I'd be looking at that on the hourly. All right. All right, let's jump over to the US pairs. All right. Wednesday daily. All right. So another red day down on this one. This pair is down a total of 74 pips from where we were last night. Oh, not this one. This one. What? Go up to the daily. Bam, there we go. Looks very similar though, right? With the big pullback. So again, had a little bit of stabilization. You guys can see not much different. We did have a pop up and then a pop back down again. So, there was a little bit of movement in this one today based off of what we heard. Again, tomorrow, I believe we will get some movement in this one as well. The two numbers being non-employment change, and then ISM, this will affect this pair because it'll affect the market, the future, the dollar, more or less everything. So this is one that I really want to start analyzing tomorrow before the news comes out. Looking at it on a 4-hour level, you can kind of see we're sort of in no man's land, right? We're kind of right in the middle, right? But there is a zone sitting right here, okay, that we've already actually got a tickle off of. So that's a zone we definitely need to watch out for. Followed by there's one just slightly above it as well. So a couple different things. To the bottom side, there's a little zone here. I'm not as worried about it. I think this is really the target. If we can get price to come up in the overnight, this could be a great little short. If it goes far to the downside, which is a lot, that's 180 pips. I don't think we're getting that far. It may be a bit much. So here are the hourly zones, and you guys can see that it did mark those off. I ended up marking the entire one on the bigger time frame, but you can see it kind of put the two levels in. I still think if you're going to not use the other one, I think this area probably, well, I'll just do it this way. We'll go here. Probably use that level. 23 is about there. It's probably good. We're trying to encompass the red body right here. Okay. 1 to 3 is probably okay. Again, we got to see how it approaches overnight. And again, this is for news tomorrow morning. It's not for right now. As you guys can see, on the 1 hour right now, on the 30-minute, we are bouncing off a small level. I'd like it to go higher. I would like it to get back up because I'd like to be able to short this tomorrow. Continuous kind of push to the downside. But it's got a ways to run to be able to grab that level. And unfortunately, there's not really any other clean levels. I would not use this level. It's really this level or bust, right, to the downside. Or if we can get a break of this level, again, we can Harry Potter this one to the south if we need to. But right now, there's not really a whole lot to enter. But I would like to get short this one, and here's why. There's not a lot here. I mean, there's a little bit. But again, this is an irrational move. Came off of a daily. I like for it to push down a bit farther, at least down into this range, into this 106. Was it 105? Yeah, 105, 40-ish range, like in here, is where I'd be looking for this one to come down to. Again, large push. It is basing. Again, we've had some of those moves in there. It tried to make an attempt up, but got slammed right back down again. Okay, so that's why it's kind of like, let's see. I'd like to continue this to the downside. Definitely bearish this position. All right, I want to see a collapse and then push down. But most important thing is news release tomorrow is at 8:15. Start looking at this one at 7:30, 7:45 tomorrow morning. That'll give us the kind of the proper data. See what type of levels have formed in the overnight. See what European traders did with the dollar. They're going to obviously have some control before U.S. traders step in. Might as well take their their call. There may be some nice 30-minute levels that have formed before that we don't have right now. Okay. Looking at dollar Swiss. So dollar Swiss. There we go. You guys can see this one is taking a drastic turn to the downside. So dollar Swiss is about 18 pips now from where we were last night. It is a green day, but it did get pushed up and kind of get slammed back down again. On the 4 hour, it gives us a little bit better of an idea. Like I said, it was a big drop down and then a slow rally back up again, right? Kind of ground through this one is what really the process. On the hourly, you can see that it really wasn't as impressive as we thought it was going to be. It didn't really have money levels to grab. You can see this is just kind of a slow grind. There was a small level, and again, you could have marked a level off here, all right, and be like, okay. I see that. There's some, potential moving off of that one. It is 30 pips, and this pair is not the biggest mover. I mean, the ATR is 140 right now. It typically is about 50. And you can look at that zone and be like, it's all right. I mean, it got front run once. It spent a lot of time in that zone, but it was quite large. And was it explosive when you dropped to the lower time frame? The only entry, you could have probably shrunk this to here, but here's why I don't like the zone. Okay, and I'll move this up just so you can see it. Look how that's formed. I like when the green is high and the red is lower. I don't like when the candle that drops is actually the highest candle. So for me, it kind of is like, is it the best zone? Not really, right? Not really. It invalidated a lot. So even if you had marked off that zone, again, it took a while. Got front run, came up, kind of stopped in base, which is never a good sign. And then pushed up, went that back and forth and ended up closing lower. So not really a great one on the lower time frames. And even looking at this right now, I don't really see much right now. We'll see what forms in the overnight when the Swiss traders come online. There's just not a lot to trade on this one. And that kind of tends to be how this pair is. We'll see what levels form in the overnight, and we'll see what we can get close to before news tomorrow morning. Dollar CAD. So dollar CAD is down 58 from where we were. There's a little bit of a retracement, obviously, coming in right now. As you guys can see, the ATR on this one, it's still pretty high. It's still pretty peaked, but most of the big candles are still sitting inside of this range. They're all sitting right here. So we're starting to eat the big candles up. So in the next few days, by Friday, this one should drop down if we don't have crazy movement tomorrow, right? So dropping down to a 4 hour, you can see still some movement, right? Still some movement. There's a few levels here, but none of them are great. Like this one, the red is higher. This one, the green is way higher, but it's a huge kind of zone. This was a retest and a failure to go higher. That wasn't a bad, right? Looking on the hourly, is there anything here? No, that's where there's the higher amount. There's a tested here, and that wasn't bad, right? That this level is up at what, 143.95. But for the most part, we just kind of pulled away. So we got a bit of a, we got about 200 candles before we can get back, or 200 pips before we can get up there. 30-minute. Kind of the same thing. Is there any great zones? Not really. So I feel like because we had so much movement in this one also needs to build us some new levels to be able to trade off of. Even down here, it's not a bad level. Not a bad level at all. But you're still talking about 170 pips away from it. Now, can the non-farm employment change tomorrow move it that far? Yeah, absolutely. Can the ISM manufacturing? Absolutely. But going into the overnight, I don't want to necessarily use a 30-minute chart to be able to predict what's going to happen, 12 hours from now, or I guess 8 hours from now. Again, this is going to be another one that you need to look at ahead of time. Also with oil tomorrow, but I think the two big movers, I think most people are going to be looking at the ISM manufacturing number, and that's what's going to move the dollar CAD. If you want to play oil, you need to either do it in oil or you need to do it in the CAD yen tomorrow. I think dollar CAD is not necessarily as safe because it's going to be reacting to this ISM number tomorrow. All right. So don't like anything in the overnight in dollar CAD. And then dollar Singapore, as you guys can see, again, kind of almost that same type of dollar yen pattern. Straight down, a little bit of a pop. I think this one's going to continue to push to the downside as well. It's got to find some sellers, but there's not really a whole lot of clean sellers on there. Hourly, this one drove all the way up to that far into the zone, these two candles, so don't really love it. This zone here, not bad. I don't mind that zone. I think that zone is pretty good, but that's quite a bit of ways for us to get into. And even on the 30-minute, that's as close as we can get. And the risk on this one is about 17, 18 pips. Spreads down to 1, between 1 and 2. So not horrible, not horrible. This one will have some movement tomorrow morning as well. And because of the lower volume, we may get this one may get a little bit real funky. Yeah. And again, stay away from those funky ones in the morning. So again, not everybody trades this one anyway, so I won't spend too much time. All right, let's jump into the last 6. Start off with our buddy oil. I don't think I have anything custom on this one, right? I can find that again. Bam. So on the daily, you guys can see, look at this. This one has definitely been put in a big swing. So we had all this craziness, this huge gap, but look at this on the daily. So right now, 14 is right here. So we are starting to eat up the big chunky candles right in this area right now. Each day we're eating up another one. And look how small the movement was today. Much, much smaller. Now, obviously I know, guys, this one did not dip into the 19 because it's an ECN. It didn't honor that data that low. But again, more or less flat day. Here's the 4-hour data on this one. Okay. Again, a lot of trend today. Not so much, right? Very, very consolid day. Looking at it on an hourly, kind of the same idea. We did have a top and bottom kind of formed here, but, was there a lot to trade? I mean, we kind of formed this top around 6 o'clock this morning. And then really from this 9 o'clock time frame from here with the open, really to where we are right now, it didn't move. It kind of went down a little bit. We went from what? 22.40 down about 40 cents. So, I mean, the average is about $1.50 that this one used to move. Now, obviously, it's $5. It's a bit more, but this one, it just didn't move, right? Not too much here. And again, it did break through the gap, and that was something that we were originally looking for to trade off of. 30-minute levels, kind of same thing, right? Nothing great in there. 15-minute levels are the ones that we've been focusing on a lot lately. So 15-minute levels, you guys can see, really when this level was formed, again, about 7:30 this morning. Here's that 8:30 time frame. There is a little bit of a zone right here. All right, there was a little bit of a zone right here, but you never got entry into it. It would have been a nice little short, and unfortunately, we're unable to get into it. So again, oil tomorrow morning, use the most recent 15-minute levels. Don't use these levels right now and try to set your trades in the overnight. Make sure you're getting the most updated. This will move in the overnight as Europe kind of prepares for what the inventory number is supposed to be. The last I saw the inventory number, it was supposed to be, what, 3.5? Let me see. Hold on. Now it's 3.7. It was 3.5 or 3.2 earlier today. They've adjusted it to 3.7 surplus. We'll see if how close that can be to what reality is and what type of reactions. But again, I would trade it on the smaller time frames. But interesting place where we are right now, right? Interesting place. Again, it put its lows in back here. And yes, I know it went down to the 19. It's not showing it here. But again, you have to trade on the platform and the charts that you're looking because that's how price is reacting. Interesting, though. Interesting. I should put that line back on. I had that line. I had that magical line at 20. And if it's magical, let's make it gold. I like gold. There we go. Now, remember, guys, I did have levels down here right below at 19. So the fact that it popped down to 19, was it 1961, 1962, or whatever it was, and popped, that's kind of what I'm expecting. Yeah, I mean, there wasn't enough to play with it, James. I mean, you got to have enough, and there just wasn't anything there. So gold, as I mentioned before, I've been short gold. I've been very bearish-minded with gold. And you guys can see on the daily, again, kind of a nice move to the downside. Here's what we got on the 4-hour. Right, again, what did we see today? About 8 hours down. I talked about before how we've seen this turning over, seen it dropping to the downside, and it had a nice move. We went from, 1603 down to 1582, kind of into a level right there on the hourly. Right, on the hourly, you can see we actually busted some levels there. There we go. I think I talked about this before. Let me see the violated zone. Yeah, I was saying that I wouldn't be trading that one. Yep. So, again, went down to a lower time frame. Again, you were able to find this. Took a bounce off of it pretty easy, right? You guys can see pretty clean zone. That's the last time we had a really clean pullback. This is a bit of junk in here. Nice mover to the downside today. 30-minute chart. Same thing. Look at this. Here's where we are right now. Here's where we were right here for Nadex. And since that time, it went from, 1598 all the way down to, 30-point drop from Nadex. Because they heard me. They heard me say that the markets are going to get worse. That's what it was. Wow, they're estimating 15. Or I'm sorry, 10. That'll be interesting. Who are you and what have you done, James? Wow. 10 would be an interesting number to throw up there because that would be a huge surplus, and that would definitely want to pop that $20 figure again. Woo, man, I'm excited now for oil if it's going to be if that's the case. Wow. I mean, they adjusted it up to a little tiny bit by 0.5, but man, 10. Man, now you're getting me excited for tomorrow. So gold-wise, guys, right now, again, we are bouncing off of a level. I would expect it kind of to stabilize in the overnight. Big question is, how does it handle this tomorrow morning? If that oil number is bad and oil drops again, that would give us another opportunity to drop to the downside. Like right now, there is no need for inflation to be inside of the markets because right now, what inflation? right? If people are barely, I mean, besides buying toilet paper right now, people are not buying a lot of stuff. They're not buying cars. They're not buying houses. People are sitting on what they have and conserving what they have right now. So there's really no need for inflation. If anybody tries to jack prices right now, the government's going to give them that slap on the wrist. So I just don't see anything that really fundamentally that can tell me that gold's going to go higher. And again, I've been saying it. I said it last night. To me, it looks like gold's going lower, lower, lower. Now we've bounced off this level here, and it's a legit level, right? It's a legit level. On the 30-minute, we got a little bit more room to run. Um, you know, 15-minute, you can see on the 30-minute. There's a little bit of a zone sitting right there, right? That may be where we pull back in the overnight up to this, 1587 zone, right? 1587 may be a little bit of an entry for us to take this short. Again, let's see where it comes back. Yeah, risk to reward. Not bad. Not bad. The 1 to 3 is okay. The 1 to 5 is really not in a horrible position. We'll see what the overnight does to that one and see if this continues to push the downside. I throw the skeezer away from my seat. Just taking slugs. Gonk, 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 gonk. Yeah. All right, silver. Look at that. Look at that. On the daily from last week, it's still going and having some problems. And I mentioned earlier as well, I just don't see anything in this one that is super bearish. I'm sorry, super bullish. And basically, you can see this one was flat. Sean was probably bored today with nothing to trade. As you can see on the hourly, there was a little bit of movement. You're talking about, 25 cents, back and forth today. It stayed within a very minor zone. On the 30-minute, you guys can see more or less from the channel. It's just literally been going back and forth between 1420 and 1390. So a little 30-cent range back and forth. Now, interestingly enough, you guys can see that obviously up right now we're jacked. It's about $1 movement every day. Going back, and you can see 11, 12, this big candle right here from here to here is candle number 13. Candle number 14 is right here. So we're eating this candle up right now. This is the last one in the analysis. So Thursday, this gigantic candle comes out. And then we'll see the ATR. So the normal ATR, the normal movement on this one is about 40 cents a day. That's about what the average is. It's over $1 right now, but it's getting sucked out. So the levels are not quite caught up yet to the lower movement. They're still kind of jacked up with this one. But again, kind of the same idea. I don't see anything. We have some levels. I talked about a level here. Super flat. I can see this starting to kind of pull back to the downside as the economy takes a little bit farther of a hit. Okay. Now looking at NQ. Okay. So on the daily, you guys can see we had a zone on the daily that we were bouncing off of. And again, it did hit. It did push to the downside. Right. On the 4-hour, you can see the zone is not as clear. Okay. You can see it on the daily. Cannot see it on the 4-hour. Now on the hourly, not as so clear. We had a high, then we put a higher high. So again, we were kind of expanding, right? We had higher highs, we had lows though that were getting lower, and eventually we had a red, green, red, and it continued to push a little bit lower. So again, looking at this in the overnight, to me, it looks like this wants to continue farther. It is basing right now, but it's not basing in a level where there's really any type of buyers in there. Yeah, as you can see, there's a couple buyers down sitting in here, but really not too much. That's kind of the level it's skirting on. But there's also buyers right above where current price is. So to me, it looks like it's going to want to continue to go down in the overnight. We'll see what the U.S. traders are doing. And again, this may be the market preparing for some bad news tomorrow ahead of time. Because if the market can go down in the overnight and this number comes in bad, it'll pop like it did last week. That's kind of what we saw. We'll see. And don't forget, Thursday we have that next unemployment number. Silver is expensive, $25 a tick. Ouch. Silver can be fun. Do you bother with a 1-minute chart? No. For nothing. The only thing that so that's not true. The only thing that I look at 1-minute charts for, or when I'm trading 5-minute binaries, anything more than that, it's just going to be very, very choppy. I do have a strategy. Run on Q, but I'll show you real quick. I do have a system here with 5-minute binaries here that I will go into kind of 1-minute charts, right? I'm going to repopulate all the data here. That's about the only time. And what I'll do is I'll use 5-minute and 1-minute charts for this one. That's about the only time that I go into smaller time frames. Okay. About the only time. Okay. The only people that really go into 1-minute charts and kind of like tick charts and stuff are typically futures traders because they're looking to scalp during the day. They'll scalp like ES and things like that during the middle of the day. But that's about it. So hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, unfortunately, and here's the thing. A 1 minute chart in like a normal kind of market condition, it's not bad. You're going to get chop on it. Like the higher the time frame you go, you tend to get less chop on things. On the 1 minute, you'll see price fluctuations back and forth. And as long as you have good volume at that time, like it's in an active trading time, like in the morning between like 8:30 and 10:30, you're probably fine. If you want to go down to a 1 minute chart, you probably still can get enough data. And that's why people use things called like share bar charts or volume based charts. And the reason why is you get, all the candles kind of get equalized that way. During slower times, it doesn't make as much sense because, just for an example, if each bar is going to be 1,000 kind of trades, right? In the morning, those bars are going to print pretty fast, right? In the afternoon, when it's really, really slower at lunch, they're not going to print as fast and prices will tend to move a little bit more. I don't find them to be as reliable. But I do know a lot of people that use those share bar charts or the volume-based charts that, again, it's quantifying how many trade positions have been accepted. And that's what it's printing for the actual, instead of like time frames, right? Instead of saying, well, in 60 seconds, it's giving you an actual number of kind of, a specific volume in each one. Those are very helpful. All right. So if you've never tried those, try those out. Yeah, you can. I mean, SPY and ES is the same exact thing. You're just trading an ETF versus a futures contract. Now, the difference between the two is are you trading options on SPY or are you just trading SPY shares? Let's see what the delay is here. Okay, you're doing options with it. Yeah, and that's fine. Yeah, I mean, there was years ago I used to trade an option strategy with SPY options. You day trade them. You take up you basically you trade kind of at like figure out where trend is going, trade them, and basically what your stop loss was about half the options price. So you'd get them at the money, right? You take them off with about a 50-cent loss, and you'd be looking to basically double your money on them. Make a dollar in the other direction. And used to work like gangbusters years ago. I haven't traded it for a while. I haven't been able to. But it was a great position. But I wouldn't go down to like a 1 minute. I wouldn't need to. I'd basically spend the first half hour figuring out where trend was going for the day, see if the 10-10-30 reversal was happening or not. And if it wasn't happening, or if it was happening, either way, I'd wait for the 10-10-30 time frame. And that's where I in a position, look to make a dollar. Yeah. Nice little, slam 20 options contracts down on that one at the monies. All right. So that's NQ. Like I said, NQ to me looks in the overnight like it's going to go down. Looking at the Dow on the daily, right? Again, red day. Talked about it this morning. Looking at the 4 hour, you can see that this one was bouncing off of this zone, and I mentioned this too as well. That it spent a bunch of time there, right? I mean, it really chopped through. We were actually right in this area. We had just left the zone, and it dropped. It went from 2190 down to 2161, 611. So decent move to the downside. Wasn't surprising, and again, the Dow of all of them really to me had the best kind of setup. I would have liked if we were able to drive a bit higher, but we didn't. It didn't actually even make it past this zone. You can see there was a little bit of a retest. This retest occurred at about 11 today, so I guess about 10:30, right? Remember, this is a reversal time. We had, in the overnight, we pushed down, 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 down. Market opened at, literally shot straight up, and what did it do? At 10:30, the most common reversal time, it reversed and continued back down in the same direction that it was. So this would have been a great example. Instead of using SPY, you could even use QQQ, for the same exact setup that I was talking about right here. Right, here's that reversal. Did it move enough to make a dollar? Yeah. So now this one, the Nasdaq, I would say would be going down overnight. This one is actually starting to approach some levels here. This one will probably take a bounce. The last time that price was down here at 2146, we had a little bit of a bounce. So this one I could also see actually kicking in a little bit of a bounce. So again, keep your eye on this one. This may be a bounce in the overnight. Looking forward to going tomorrow morning. SPY on the daily. You guys can see. Same thing, kind of a flip. This one didn't get quite as high. I was hoping this would go a bit higher as well. It actually didn't, and I mentioned this before, the Dow really had the best setup. You can see there was a bit of a zone here. It's not anything you guys would have taken on the 4 hour. Looking at this on the hourly, you can see there was a couple zones here. There was that same retest. Same time, right? You guys look at the bottom. Here's where we are now. That retest occurred at 10:30 this morning. Here, I'll mark it off. There's your 30-minute. Reset the time, and you can see 10:30 is right here, that red candle. That's the one that peaked up in, pulled back down again, 11, and then at noon it just continued to push to the downside. So again, European session, U.S. traders came online 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, right? 9:30 is where the open was. Boom, right back up into the zone. 10:30, we had the reversal based off of what we did in the morning, and right back into the same trend that we were in the overnight. Textbook. Now, this one doesn't necessarily have it doesn't have that same area that the Dow had. This one, to me, also, like the NASDAQ, looks like this one would want to continue a bit further. So I wouldn't necessarily be surprised tomorrow morning if we get into pre-market hours and NASDAQ is down a little bit. Dow is probably holding or maybe up just slightly, and then the S&P is also down. It's kind of sitting in a zone, but not really a great one. And then again, for me, the Dow is the only one that's really sitting at something that's noticeable, good pop, nice nice base, and a nice retest off of. But NASDAQ, I don't really see much down here. S&P, don't necessarily see a whole lot here till we get a bit lower in the overnights. All right. So with that being said, guys, let's call it a night. It's 10:51. We kind of went long. I thought it'd be quick tonight, but all right, get in there for your purchases. Hashtag, or not hashtag, exclamation point ticket is the way to get into this. Again, you guys have been accumulating pip chips. This is how you can get 25 of them. Or 25, or I guess, who won last night? Last night was it Sean? Sean, did you win last night? I can't remember who won last night. Oh, no, it was Vanessa last night. All right, Vanessa won last night because I forgot. First night back. I don't see her on tonight, though. So if she's not on, if she cannot get her ticket in, which she does not have one in right now, it means she cannot get 100 pip chips for winning tonight because she won't be in the drawing. So I will give you guys, yeah, Vanessa won last night. Yep. So I will give you guys about another minute. I'll close it down at 1:47:30. I know you guys like to try to figure out how to time this to be the last one in. You don't get extra pip chips for that, but I do find great comedy when you guys try to enter it after the fact. When you guys try to kind of time it. But 45 more seconds, and then we'll go ahead and call it for the night. What's up, Shoke? Thank you so much for following, buddy. No, it wasn't me. Ernest is already in. You can go ahead and draw. James has got to sneak into the last bit. Look, we got 25 more seconds. And again, you guys have like a different varying delay. So for me, it's different. I got 20 seconds. Ooh, is Wealth Builder going to get it in there for the last one? We got 15 seconds. No, but got in. We got 13 seconds. 12. 10 seconds. Ernest is like, man, I thought I was in. There is something to be said about the person who gets the last one. All right, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. All right, let's see. No whammies. I always got to pause it a little bit, right? Oh, wait. Yeah. See? How can you say so many? Jonesy. All right, here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Winner is Wealth Builder. Tried to snag it at the very, very end. 11.11% chance. Look at that. Got in there at the last minute. Wealth Builder is getting really, really good. I thought Noah was going to get you. If Noah would have got you, I'd have laughed, Wealth Builder. But you got in so close. So he got it. So you get the pip chips for tonight. I'll mark the drawing as complete. Let's bring it across and give you these pip chips. Ooh, look at that. 500, man. You were golden there. And yes, I still haven't added the totals. I know, guys. Life is busy with kids at home. Unfortunately, one of the boys is now sick, so he's at mom's house now, so I only have the baby. I will see if I can add him tomorrow, and then we can get the corrected totals. But at this point, I feel like I should just give all like the top 20 people or top 15 people. I feel like I should just give you like 500 pip chips and call it a day. Make it easy. 11.11, right? It's like Make-A-Wish. Oh, wait. I see Sean won. No, yeah, Sean. I know Wealth Builder won this one, not Sean. Wealth Builder. Different people. I know people get him confused. But most importantly, for many of you, Ernest did not win. The king did not win. Not tonight. All right, guys, with that being said, I am out of here. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. I'll definitely be around for both those numbers tomorrow morning. The baby will probably be asleep for the 8:15 number, so I will definitely be clear. If you have any questions, chat with me on Discord. All right, you guys take care. Welcome, new guys. It's great seeing you. Hopefully, you guys join us again tomorrow night. Take care.